So today's a great day in Texas. It's 64 degrees. It feels great outside. I figure I want to take my car out for a drive. But before I take the car out or I even turn the car on, I always try to follow a couple of things. Just basic things that you want to check on your car before starting it and taking it out for a drive. This list has been extremely helpful to me, and I hope this list can be helpful to you as well. So I figure I'd share it out to you guys. I want to show you guys is my beautiful list. No, this is not to showcase the whiteboard. This is an actual list that I use, and I pretty much read it every single time before going out for a drive. I have it right in front of the car, so I remind myself of what to look for. Feel free to use it. Quick thing to know before beginning is always disconnect your battery tender. I don't want to say that I've left it connected and driven off, but I have. So please disconnect your battery tender to avoid any further issues. Prior to driving the car, I'll always do a visual inspection. This includes the tires, the body, panels, all that good stuff. I want to make sure that the tires have air and they don't look physically deflated, because that could be a problem. I also will look at the engine. I often work in this car and I find myself working till late sometimes, so I'll leave tools laying around, which is not a good idea. But you also want to open the hood, just make sure there's visually nothing wrong with it or anything that doesn't seem normal, pretty much something out of the norm. Aside from that, I'll try to check under the car to make sure there's no random liquids or fluids that might pique my interest. This car has a lot of leaks, so I know most of them. So if there's an extra one, then that means that something else is happening with the car. Aside from this, I'll look at the interior of the car, make sure there's nothing laying around. I like to show off the car, so I want to make sure the car is clean on the inside as well. Alright guys, the first thing on my list is the tires, and as you guys know, this is a vital component of the car. It helps with your miles per gallon. It also helps the smoothness of the ride, and if you have a good PSI, you can extend the life of your tires as well. So keeping it between 35 and 40 is the recommended amount. I usually like to keep them at around 38 or 40. It's just something that I do. But with a good PSI pressure valve or a monitoring system, you're able to determine the individual PSI of each tire, keeping your car running smooth. The second thing on my list is to check the fluids, and I'll usually start with the coolant fluid. It's the easiest one to look at and it's the fastest one to get to. Usually it's on the right side, pretty much above your right tire or your passenger side. Usually I grab a light to make sure the coolant level is even. If the car is cool and not on, the coolant will show a lower level, but your reservoir will show you exactly where it needs to be at if it's cold or hot, and it's very easy to determine. And keeping up with my second point, and not to be mistaken with the coolant fluid, which is on the passenger side, the washer fluid will be on the left side on the driver's side. I personally don't use this because my washer fluid does not work, but if yours work, it's worth giving it a look. You use that more than you think that you use it, so it's worth looking at it and changing it or rechanging the fluid every once in a while to make sure that your windshield is clean and not full of little bugs and debris. Next to the washer fluid, you have a chrome cylinder looking thing. This is your brake fluid. I don't check this as often as I don't have any brake fluid coming out of my brakes or any leaks from the brakes, but it is worth looking at it every once in a while, especially if you haven't been driving the car for long periods of time, to make sure that it is full and it is clean. I usually check this every once in a while just to make sure that I don't have anything going on with the car or anything that I haven't noticed. It is worth looking at it every once in a while, as I said, and it helps the car look clean. It's also right next to your washer fluid, so why not? Favorite fluid to look at, and this is the power steering fluid. It is extremely difficult to find and it is easily forgettable. Luckily, I do have a leak on my power steering, so I have to be topping this one up every once in a while, but do not forget that it exists. Every once in a while, just give it a look and make sure that the liquid is up. Next up, and this is keeping up with my second point, is the oil level dipstick. You want to make sure that your oil levels are up, and unfortunately this is another leak that my car has. Not a very bad one, but I think I have to change either the pan or the screw because there is a random leak every once in a while. The dipstick, which is located by the driver's side, will give you a guidance on where the oil should be at all times, whether the engine is cold or hot. This is not the same for the transmission liquid or the transmission fluid, I'm sorry, but it is a good way to maintain your oil at a high level. Usually you want to take it out, clean the dipstick, and then you want to dip it back in and then take it off to see the exact level. As you can tell, mine is a little bit low. I haven't driven the car in a few days or a few weeks, so it is a little bit low because there's an existing leak. But make sure that you look at this one, as it is extremely important and extremely easy to miss as well. When it comes to the engine of an older car, you also want to check the hoses, whether they've been replaced not too long ago or a very long time ago. And I usually want to check the hoses every single time I drive the car. Reason why is because these cars tend to have a funny way of allowing fluids to just come out of anywhere. And so you want to give a inspection, you want to be able to inspect the car visually and really look at it to make sure that there's no leaks and no random fluids somewhere around the engine bay. Once you have checked all these fluids and your car is good to go, you are able to go ahead and start your car. After allowing the car to warm up for a few minutes, I definitely suggest for you to check your transmission fluid. Once again, I do this because my car has a transmission fluid leak. So I always check the transmission before anywhere I go, and I keep a quart of transmission in the back of the car just in case. Cool thing about the dipstick is that this car, particularly the 79 Corvette, tells you exactly where the levels are at for the transmission when it's hot and when it's running, as well as what type of transmission fluid you should be using for this car. So it's extremely helpful because you never forget. Even if you leave the fluid behind in your garage or somewhere else, you'll still be able to see it on the dipstick. To my third and last point, I always keep in the habit of leaving things around, boxes, tools, stuff that I buy, especially behind this car because it's the one that I don't use a lot. Just keep the habit of checking your surroundings so that way when you're turning the car on after checking all these things that you have to check, nothing's keeping you away from you, the car, and the road. So get into the habit of always checking your surroundings. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Please comment down below if you have any questions, and hopefully this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.